this is Matt Blackburn and you're watching Divine Superconductor TV. Today I will be talking about parasitic worms. I'm not going to have many videos where it's just me talking because I prefer to actually show you what I do so that if you want to do it, you can do it. But this is a very important concept to understand because it'll help you see why you would want to do all these protocols. To start with, let's talk about the sickness that most of the world has today. So how do we know this is real? Well, 1 out of 50 children have autism, 30% of the US is obese, 80% of the US is 15 pounds plus overweight, 50 million Americans are on antidepressants, and 75 million Americans have diabetes. So there's a myriad of causes to all of these things. Genetically modified foods, vaccinations, 80,000 chemicals in the system, etc. The water's polluted with fluoride, pharmaceuticals, personal care products, and the soil is depleted, and the air is toxic, and there's heavy metals, and on and on. So these sicknesses obviously don't just have one cause. But today we'll be focusing on parasites because parasites are one of the most misunderstood and overlooked things with health. So parasitic worms are called HELminths. That's a Greek word for worm. So it's interesting that there's hell in that word. 1/3 of your feces is eggs. So that's an interesting thing to consider. There are a bunch of different types of worms. Today I'll cover about 4 or 5 of them. Each species, it's important to understand, each type of worm has a different life cycle. So they have a different way of which they take over the body. Just to kind of get this exciting, I have some jars, things that came out of me, and this is catch of the day today. Another one. And who knows what these are. I'd like to send them to a vet because human parasitologist, not going to be much help. He said this came out of my dog. Those. You're asking, throw them up? Did you cough them out? No, they came out in a enema, a coffee enema in fact. Here are these, I'll just go through them real quick. This one's pretty gnarly. Most of them look like that kind of long shape. Literally, I could spend all day looking through, a toilet after an enema and see what came out of me. Yeah, so these are them. Most people have these come out here and there, but to really release them, you need to get on a protocol like I share in my videos with enemas and turpentine and taking ayurvedic, like cleansing herbs. I'm a fan of Cascara Sagrada. But only take these things if your eliminative system, your digestive eliminative system is open. Enemas are very helpful for that. There we go. You can kind of see it right there. It's the longest one that came out of me. You have to understand that these parasitic worms are mind-controlling, interdimensional entities. They affect our consciousness and affect our desires and our choices and our quality of thoughts and everything about the mind. Really, to kind of regain yourself. Most people are less than 50% them. The parasites are 51% or more of them, and the parasites have a certain consciousness that is fairly low. It's low vibration. They like toxicity, they like drama, they like stress, they like electromagnetic fields, they like GMOs, they like chemicals, they like sex, they like a lot of things. Look at your life. People say, how do you know I have them? Well, do you crave processed foods often? Are you chasing women, guys? Are you... Just look at your lifestyle. That's how you know you have them. In body fat, the ropeworm has 5 stages of development. The first and second stage is mucus. I haven't eaten meat or blood or flesh in 9 months, and every day since January, I've been releasing a ton of mucus. A ton. People say, oh, you're sick. Eat a steak. You must be weak. No, that's their parasites talking. If you start doing this, people say that to you, understand that it's their parasites talking through them, trying to basically infect you. This is the psychology of parasites. The second stage is visible snot with viscous gas bubbles that act as suction cups on the intestinal tract, so you can't poop them out. This is the rope parasite, and it feeds on human blood. Most of these parasites are blood suckers. That's why a lot of people crave meat, and we have this fake masculine meat-eating society where in fact it's just a cycle. The parasites are suckling our blood, and so they're asking for blood outside of us. And when we stop taking in blood from the outside, then they start consuming our blood. And that's when you get like a weak vegetarian. And that's why it's very important to add in nutrient-dense superfoods, algae, grasses, flooding your body with chlorophyll, flooding your body with raw foods, flooding your body with liquids first and foremost. I have a bunch of liquids I drink. On a daily basis, my usual go-to ones are distilled water that I add minerals to, chaga mushroom tea, lemon, turmeric, ginger, and fermented lemonade, and maybe hibiscus tea, and occasionally blue-green algae that I brew. Have a variety of liquids and try to aim for your body weight in ounces a day. If you can do half your body weight in ounces, that's a start, but aim for your body weight in ounces just until you get to a certain level. Heartworms you get from dogs and cats, from mosquitoes as well. If you have heart flutters, your heart is missing beats, that could be a case of heartworms. Tapeworms, these are the gnarliest ones, and it's important to understand that while there are a variety of parasites, each species will have the top dog, the alpha, the one that is bigger than all the rest and that keeps the other ones in line because they're greedy. Tapeworms are also known as cestodas, and the most common tapeworms are from beef, pork, and fish. They can measure more than 50 feet long and they can live for decades. So if you get these things, say you had your first piece of beef when you were 10 years old, and say it was slightly undercooked, or even if it was cooked, these parasite eggs can be charred with heat and survive and then hatch in the body. So say you had your first piece of beef, fish, or pork, let's just say at 10 years old and you're 30. Well, they grow an average of a foot a year. So if you keep eating these things and feeding them, and they're growing a foot a year, if you do the math, you could have a 20-foot tapeworm living inside of you. And those are just 3. So you could have 3 20-foot tapeworms living inside of you. As far as these 3, pig is the one that you would want to cut out the most of. That's the gnarliest of these tapeworms. The second gnarliest one is the beef, and then the fish. But these are all very manipulative, destructive, mainly to the mind, but also to the body, critters. The pig tapeworm has suction cups called scolex, and they suckle blood. They're hermaphrodites, so they don't require a mate. But a lot of these worms are not. A lot of your sexual desires could be from you having a male tapeworm and they have a female tapeworm, and when there's the fluid exchange, you actually infect each other. These things are hyper intelligent. They've been around longer than we have, so that's important to understand. These are machines of the Matrix. And then there's the fish tapeworm. The fish tapeworm, you could look up videos, people looking at meat at Costco, wild caught salmon or whatever, and you see this little worm wriggling around, still alive in there. Fish is loaded full of worms. And if you don't believe me, think about how They say that don't eat fish that are old because they taste mushy. That's because the parasites have bored holes through their flesh. That's why they get mushy. You have to think about eating flesh or meat. Big reason why I don't eat it. Yeah, it's kind of weird to eat another consciousness. And yeah, plants are conscious, but there's levels. One of the biggest reasons I don't eat meat is because it's all contaminated. And if it's not contaminated from antibiotics, hormones, vaccines, chemicals, then it's contaminated with parasitic, mind-controlling worms. These worms manipulate the creatures to be eaten by other creatures. Say they infect a snail, the bird eats the snail, and then we eat the bird. We get that same worm. But there's life cycles. So in the snail it develops a certain way, in the bird it develops a certain way. Then it goes into us and it develops a certain way. And then we are infected. And it lasts for years. These things are not easy to get out of the body. That is very important to understand. You're not going to get them out in one enema or two enemas. I've done over probably 400 enemas, and I'm still getting them out. This is a long process. It requires dedication and a little bit of courage and research and intuition. We can also get tapeworms from fleas. Then there are roundworms. These are like earthworms. They look the same. And everyone has about a handful in their stomach, and these are there because we eat cooked food. So processed food, the more processed it is, the more these guys have to break it down. I'm a big fan of taking digestive enzymes. I'll go out to eat dinner at restaurants. When I can, I drink probiotics. If they have kombucha there, I always get that. But the best thing is to bring digestive enzymes with you whenever you're going to eat processed food. Because otherwise you're just feeding these creatures. So you want to have maximum absorption. Because if you don't have maximum absorption, the food's going to sit there and it has to be broken down. And your body only did so much. So other things, other entities are going to come in and feed on it. Your digestive system is not up to par. Then there are the hookworms. They look like this. Hookworms live inside 1.3 billion people. They use their powerful teeth to lacerate a patch of the intestinal wall and drink blood from the wound. So they're like leeches. They're called the Ascaris lumbricoides. They crawl inside of us through the skin. They enter into the bloodstream. We cough it up from the lungs, and then they're swallowed back down into the intestinal tract. That's why when you're coughing, you never swallow it, never. Always spit. Who cares if it's gross? You don't want that stuff back in the body. You cough up congestion, you're in public, find a spot to spit. Do not swallow that. These things start in the dirt, in dog poop, they start in the ground. And so when you're a kid and you're walking around barefoot or you're lying in the grass and you get itchy, they enter in through the skin this way. So you could have gotten these when you were a kid, and you could very well still have them today. Probably do. They end up in the digestive tract because, like I said, we cough them up and then we swallow it. So these are very genius. It's not that our body's trying to get rid of it. They are manipulating the body to do this. It's not like your body's eliminating it. They're trying to further themselves. So it's their doing, not your body's. There are also external parasites such as scabies, lice, and acne. For those, it's really good to use a dry sauna, a far infrared sauna, or a near infrared, whichever one you prefer. And the question I'll address now is, how do you get rid of these things? Well, getting on a very, very clean diet, resetting your metabolism, flooding your body with chlorophyll, raw foods, probiotic bacteria, sauerkraut, fermented brews, liquids. That's the most important thing. Our body is mostly liquid. So these things live in dryness. Getting EMFs out of your life. The thing with getting these things out is it's not just about doing a cleanse and then they're out forever. You're only going to get them out if you kind of go onto a lifestyle. And to go on the lifestyle requires you to reprioritize what's important. What is important? For me, what's most important is my health and the integrity of my mind, my mental clarity, my clarity of purpose. And I personally find the most benefit from living a clean lifestyle. It's my highest priority because it allows me to be more of myself. That's the ultimate goal here. I want to be more of myself and less of other things. Did you know that bacteria outnumber our human cells 10 to 1? That means that our mind, our thoughts are not our own. They're a collection, a collective. It's like a hive mind. There are all these creatures: yeast, mold, fungus, bacteria, viruses, protozoa, parasites, you name it. And all these species are living inside of us. And we know that the ganglia of our brain go down into our stomach. The gut-brain connections. So our mind is not up here. And you can tell that by people that have a poor diet. They eat a lot of processed food, they eat a lot of chemicalized, genetically modified goblin food, and you could see it in what they talk about, what they choose to focus on. I choose to not focus on drama. I choose to have meaningful conversations. I choose to surround myself with people that are interested in bettering themselves all the time. Personal growth, self-development, that's important. Priorities. So I recommend these two books. The one I showed you the picture from is Parasite Rex by Carl Zimmer. This was the first one I read. I read this maybe about 4 years ago. And this really goes in depth about the evolution of these guys in history. Guess What Came to Dinner is more of a practical guide. If you're going to start with one of these, I'd recommend this one because it's a little easier read. Parasite Rex is gets pretty deep. More than just talking about it, I can talk about it all day. Be like, oh, that's gross, and oh, I don't have those, and oh, I can't stop eating meat, or meat has too many good things in it, or blah, blah, blah. Hey, I'm just sharing information, but the biggest thing with this is to start releasing these guys yourself. Because when you look and you see these guys in person that came out of you, there's a certain thing that happens in your mind that I can't put into words. And from that moment on, you'll have a clarity that you, like Neo in the Matrix in the back of the car, they have that EMF gun to your belly button, and they're going to suck this worm out of you. And when they suck the worm out, you're going to be more of yourself. There are some advanced things you can do to get these guys out. Like I said, it's more of a lifestyle change, so it's more looking at the elements and your relationship to them. So earth, your intestinal flora and your food, water, what water are you drinking? I only recommend RO, distilled well and spring water. I would not do any other waters than that. Water is complicated. The ultimate thing is to get a filter yourself. Do not go for Brita. Yeah, I don't want to get, that's for another video. These are very advanced things. This is a magnetic pulsar. 6,000 Gauss, north and a south side. You can put this up to different glands, and every 6 seconds it shoots out an EMP. And that EMP basically rips apart these critters. Also a silver pulsar. I have a video on the Bob Beck protocol if you want to check that out. 50 to 100 microamperes, MIT, Albert Einstein College of Medicine patented device that goes on the radial and ulnar pulse here. That every 9 seconds, blood going through that point. Anything living in the blood, their antenna gets burned down and they can't sense food, so they die. There's a lot of tricks, but these are deeper things that will get you sick if you start right away. First thing, get on a cleanse. I promote a 10-day cleanse. If you're curious about that, see my previous video where I talk about that. Get on the parasite cleansing because we all have them. If you don't think so, you're just being ignorant.